Production of Kansas City Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Coming up, Kansas lawmakers head back to Topeka. Their mission, fix schools. But how will they do it, and how will it impact you? They've only been running a month, so why the rush so soon to expand streetcars all the way to UMKC? Plus, the Missouri governor's race goes boom, and a tale of two developments as Grandview scores big and the flame dims at Prairie Fire. Welcome, everyone. It's great to be back. I'm Nick Haynes, and we are itching to connect the dots for you on your local news of the week. Refreshed and ready to go, Steve Vockrodt, now business and development writer for the Kansas City Star. The host of Up to Date on KCUR-FM, Steve Kraske. Star reporter, columnist and blogger, Dave Helling. And Star City Hall reporter, Lynn Horsley. Now, it's been only a month since Kansas City's streetcar line launched. Now moves are underway to expand the service more than 3.5 miles south, connecting the Country Club Plaza and on to UMKC. The price tag, $227 million, more than twice the price of the starter line. We recently had 3 members of the City Council, including the Mayor Pro Tem, on this program, and all of them denied being in any conversations to extend the streetcar system. So who's behind this, and who would be on the hook for paying the bill, Lynn?
Well, it's a grassroots effort of business leaders and other people who live along the route who are big streetcar advocates. They are not letting the city take the lead this time. It's a group of petitioners. They filed a petition in the Jackson County Circuit Court. There will be a hearing in September. Then there's a slew of elections that have to occur. It would not be a citywide tax increase, but it would establish a transportation district around Main Street, and the property owners who live within 1/3 of a mile of the streetcar line would pay an extra property tax, and then there would be a 1-cent sales tax.
Steve Vockrodt, why the rush, though? It's only been a few weeks that we've had this first starter line. Why just wait and just see how it's going before moving forward with phase 2?
Well, if you're a streetcar proponent, you want to take the goodwill, largely goodwill, that the opening of the streetcar has generated. I mean, you get on it a lot of times, you see a lot of people on it, people seem to be excited, you see on social media all the time people taking pictures of themselves on it. So my thinking is that the proponents want to sort of capture this enthusiasm for the streetcar as it exists right now and see if they can carry that momentum all the way down to UMKC.
Well, and also, I should just point out, this is still a very slow process. Even if they get the vote, they need to get a considerable amount of federal funding. That takes a long time. And to build the rail would take several years. They think optimistically this would open in 2022.
Steve.
Yeah, it's a slow process, but I think the proponents are smart in some ways, Nick, to capitalize on this enthusiasm that's out there, because it's just spilling over these days. People want to have gotten a taste of what the streetcar experience is all about. They want to extend it down this corridor that has shown support, has voted for streetcar expansion in the past, Nick. That's very important here. That's why this route's being talked about as much as it is. Take it out to the Country Club Plaza, take it out to UMKC, and then for a moment just begin to think about how that begins to just really exponentially grow this system as you bring in thousands of more Kansas Cityans who would then be able to take advantage of this line from a very utilitarian aspect as they go from the plaza downtown and vice versa.
And just this week, the UMKC officials saying they may have the money now to build that downtown arts center, arts campus that would connect UMKC then with downtown, and what a way to do that with the streetcar.
And those students need transportation from campus downtown.
But critics of the whole streetcar system say, hold on a moment, Dave. Citizens for Responsible Government writing this week saying, hey, it doesn't cost taxpayers living outside the Transportation Development District anything, which is what they're saying. No, it does. We're not stupid. Look at your utility bills. This extension could easily cost $700 million to $800 million. Now, how could that plan conceivably cost 4 times as much as they're now saying it would?
Well, it can't. I mean, I think there's some exaggeration involved there. And as usual with this group, there's a little bit of apples and oranges in terms of where they compare the revenue and don't compare the revenue. figures and where they're coming from. Having said that, though, the fundamental criticism is probably valid. This is a lot of money for another part of a line that, while it conceivably hooks up into a metro-wide mass transit system, it doesn't really. It's just more sort of novelty, this time from the plaza to the River Market rather than Union Station. And there is, I believe you will find some objection among some business owners to having to carry the freight, not only for the construction of the line, but the operation of it over many, many years. It's not a slam dunk.
Steve.
Well, and there's going to be some decisions that voters, particularly in this district, are going to have to make. The city is contemplating right now a bond issuance, an election that would issue bonds for public infrastructure, which people in the city complain that the city hall doesn't pay enough attention to, and that may be tied to a property tax increase. And so people in this district are going to face a choice about where do we want to devote our resources? Something more broadly, or something that goes down Main Street?
And just to be clear, there are at least conceivably some infrastructure repairs that would be done concurrent with the construction of the streetcar line that may add to some of the costs that the citizens group is referring to.
Well, and just to complicate matters further, Clay Chastain is still in the picture. I think we're going to find out today. We're taping it Friday morning. I think we'll find out today that Clay has probably got enough signatures for another massive light rail proposal, which he wants to have on the November ballot. It's anyone's guess whether the city council would approve that and agree to put it on the November ballot. But if they do, that's another choice the voters will. And that would be a citywide vote for a large tax increase.
We should expect this to be easy for Kansas City, Missouri. This city, as we've talked about on the show many times, Nick, has struggled with the notion of mass transportation year after year, decade after decade. But clearly a path is being struck here, and the city is going to be asked to go along. I think the early forecast would suggest that this corridor will go along with expansion of the streetcar system. Good points being raised here, but very interesting time.
The city of Cincinnati is also going to be launching a streetcar line later this year using the same manufacturer Kansas City used for its cars. The ABC affiliate there this week sent a TV crew to Kansas City to see how it's running. This is what Cincinnati viewers got to see.
They say with any new system, there's a learning curve. A couple of weeks ago, the streetcar derailed.
We had extreme weather that day. We found a lot of debris in our track switch there.
It's since been repaired, but there were other challenges. This car ran a red.
We had a car that crashed into the streetcar, and you know what? We knew that would happen at some point, but it finally did.
Okay, that's what Cincinnati viewers are saying about our system, but this is not having any chilling effect, though, on those who want to bring this expansion to Kansas City.
The streetcar had a very bad week. They had 3 incidents in 1 week, but since then it seems to be very smooth. A lot of people are riding it. When I was writing about this before it opened, my question was, will anybody ride it? Well, now so many people are riding it, they're contemplating maybe buying another vehicle just for the existing downtown starter route. So I think Kansas Cityans are excited about it. We'll see whether the vote passes. The area where they're trying to get this expanded transportation district has traditionally voted in favor of transit, while other parts of the city have not.
Kansas lawmakers are getting ready to return to Topeka to start a special session of the legislature to fix schools. The state's highest court has threatened to shutter schools if the legislature doesn't make education spending more equitable. How do Kansas lawmakers plan to do that when they return to Topeka on Thursday, Steve Kraske?
Well, they don't know, Nick,
Okay.
and that's the problem. They are completely divided here as to how to proceed. There's even a fundamental disagreement, Nick, on what the state Supreme Court asked lawmakers to do. One question is, did they order them to spend $40 or $50 million more to comply with this order the state Supreme Court handed down? Some legislative leaders are saying, yes, we've got to spend more. Others are saying this week, no, we don't have to spend any more money at all. Governor Brownback is saying we have to. So even on that fundamental question, there's vast disagreements here. I think this argument could rage for more than just a few days here because people are so fundamentally split. A lot of politics here, Nick. Elections are just around the corner in early August. Leadership wants to end the special session quickly. Lots of questions as we sit here and tape this today, whether they can actually achieve that or not.
And isn't it conceivable, Dave Helling, that some of our area school districts could actually lose money as a result of this special session than gain some?
Right. Not only conceivable, but it will happen if at least one of the remedies discussed now becomes law. I was in Topeka yesterday and talked with some legislators about what the scenarios will be going forward. And one of the things that the governor has supported and some people think is a solution is to go back to the old distribution formula, which would cost about $37.6 million, $38 million. And that would make some districts whole, but it would cost others, including the Johnson County districts. So what they suggested yesterday, and what Democrats actually have been arguing about for 3 or 4 weeks, is throw another $12 million into the pot, hold us harmless from losing any money, spend the $38 million for the other districts, and for $50 million, everyone is happy. The problem is the state of Kansas doesn't have $50 million in the sofa cushion. I mean, it would have to find it in some other way, either by reducing spending in other parts of the school district distribution formula, cutting other spending programs. God forbid they should raise taxes to do it. So that's really going to be the hang-up. The path to a solution is clear. The path for paying for it isn't, and that's what could take some time.
Now, lawmakers could also spend their time getting back at judges, including one proposal that would curb the court's power to challenge the legislature on school funding. That's on top of a campaign already underway to oust 4 of the 7 members of the Kansas Supreme Court who are up for retention this fall. The State Line news site from the Pew Center for Journalism claims that could be among the most expensive judicial races in the country. Outside interest groups have pumped millions of dollars into state judicial races to influence outcomes in Arkansas, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. But we've never seen retention judicial elections like this before in Kansas.
In my experience in this area, this is the first time I can really remember it. I remember one time in Lawrence there was a effort to get a judge off the judge off the bench over there. It didn't work. These things tend to be difficult because people generally, when they look at retention for judges, they don't know the names, they don't really know what they're being asked to do, and they either leave it blank or they vote one way down the ballot. This effort will try to raise some visibility so people understand that at least they're being asked to take these judges that are being portrayed as politicians or radicals off the bench. Whether that's true or not, that's going to be the.
Are we going to see these huge ads on TV, these huge ad buys then against judges?
Yes, I think it's likely. In fact, Mike O'Neill, the former House Speaker and current head of the Kansas Chamber, yesterday in Topeka implicitly threatened just that when he talked to the Judiciary Committee about solutions to the school funding dilemma. He stood up and said, in essence, their time is coming in the fall, meaning the judges. So we'll see what happens. I'm writing actually a fairly long story for the newspaper over the weekend about the judicial system broadly as a target for politicians. It's really growing. You see that on the Supreme Court level with the United States Supreme Court, the whole idea that the only reason someone would vote for Donald Trump is because he would appoint the right kind of judges to the U.S. Supreme Court. You're seeing the battle in Kansas. You've mentioned some other states. It's a huge political issue, and I think Kansas, one lawyer in Johnson County told me this week, Kansas will be ground zero for that battle in the fall.
This is such an interesting time in Kansas politics. Incumbent parties, the parties that are in control, traditionally like status quo, calm waters. Kansas is anything but calm these days. Special session raging, big fights over school funding, fights over state Supreme Court, fights over taxes. The governor is the most unpopular governor in the country right now. What all this portends for Republicans going into August, the conservatives who control the legislature, what does this mean in November? My column today talks about Democrats now seeing an opportunity to go forward, maybe not to take over either the House or the Senate, but the first opportunity they've had in a quarter century to make some serious inroads here. That might happen given all this tumult.
Can I just say very briefly, that's one reason why the special session may go quickly, because you get the sense from Republicans who face challenges from moderates that the last thing they really want is a lot of headlines about school finance 6 weeks before the primary. So there may be some momentum to get it done, get out, go through the primary, and then we'll come back in the fall.
We can't ignore the biggest and most talked about story of the week, the largest mass shooting in American history at a gay nightclub in Orlando. And while the bloodshed happened 1,200 miles away, its impact ripples across our metro. Within hours, hundreds gather for a vigil at the Barney Ellis Plaza.
And we are singing, singing for our love.
We are old and young together.
It breaks my heart to think about being targeted the moment you leave your house just for who you love.
My first thought was shock that this has happened. And then
like a loss of innocence that we're experiencing from it. Like we just had Kansas City Pride, and that was our last Pride where, you know, we had a sense of safety and security that we won't feel like when we have events going forward.
If you allow fear to overcome you, then you've already lost. For those who come out and are living the life, they've already gone through a whole hell of a lot more that's fearful than that on a consistent basis. You can't allow some potential idiot with a gun to tell you how to live your life and when to live your life. So hope is always the watchword.
Area Voices on this week's tragedy at an Orlando nightclub. As the president orders flags to be flown at half-staff to honor the victims, officials in one of Missouri's largest counties vote against doing so. Presiding commissioners in Cole County, home of the state capital, say lowering the flag too frequently reduces its meaning. We can't lower it for every event like this. When they occur, reasoned one commissioner before the vote. Well, those county officials reversed course later in the week after a barrage of complaint calls and social media pressure. As the nation looks for answers to the Orlando mass shooting, there are calls for stricter gun laws, more monitoring of radical Islamists, and a focus on more effective mental health screening. But when it comes to what to do in Missouri, don't hold your breath that it will involve any restrictions on guns. Look no further than the race for governor. If you're running for Missouri governor, do you have to be seen blasting off a firearm, at least in your campaign ads? Former Missouri House Speaker Catherine Hanaway locks and loads a shotgun in her new campaign commercial. Her opponent, former Navy SEAL Eric Greitens, sets off an explosion with an assault rifle in his new ad.
I'm Eric Greitens. If you're ready for a conservative outsider, I'm ready to fire away.
While every Republican candidate campaigning to succeed Jay Nixon as governor adamantly rejects any new curbs on gun rights, even the main Democratic hopeful, Attorney General Chris Koster, is showing little appetite for any new gun restrictions, as Governor Nixon considers whether to veto a sweeping stand-your-ground gun rights proposal that also allows people to carry concealed guns without a permit. Costa says he hasn't heard anything that would cause him to think the governor should veto it. Does this show if you want to get elected in Missouri, regardless of your political stripe, you better be supportive of guns, Steve?
Well, I think that's right, particularly, Nick, if you're a Republican running in this very competitive Republican primary, 4 candidates going after this prize, and to win that conservative vote, you've got to be very much anti-gun control going forward. It's interesting to me, you talked about Chris Koster there, the lone Democrat here. He's unchallenged in the primary. Chris has taken advantage of a situation here to sort of broaden his base. He's got the Democrats already. They don't have any other choice. He's reaching out for more liberal and more moderate Republicans with this position of being, against gun control as well. He's trying to broaden his base during the Republican fight right now.
But it is interesting that you have no choices there if you're interested in the gun issue when it comes to the Missouri governor's race. Dave.
Well, and I think that just reflects the political reality in Missouri. One of the other things I find interesting about Koster particularly is he has great union support. Labor unions are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to re-elect him, in part because they're concerned about right to work. They know that if Koster loses, the state will become a right to work state fairly quickly. But union members typically are gun rights supporters. And so I think Koster sort of made that calculus, keeps the unions on his side, doesn't rile up the right wing base of the Republican Party. It's politics in the state.
Back to Kansas City, you know, it was supposed to finally be the turn of the east side of Kansas City to get a development boost, but an ambitious plan to spend $27 million to do the job right and declare victory once and for all at the 18th and Vine Jazz District has now stalled and appears to be dead. There are questions about whether the city can afford such an investment or whether it's wise to spend that amount of money in this part of town. The city manager was touting this project just a few weeks ago. It was gaining momentum. What changed, Lynn Horsley?
Well, they had a 4-hour debate in a council committee, and the vote was 4-4, so it did stall. I will say that the chief proponent of this, Councilman Jermaine Reed, who represents the district that includes the Jazz District, told me yesterday he plans to pull it out of that committee, which he can do through a procedural move, and pull it to the full council. So there will likely be a full council vote on this or discussion of it in a couple of weeks. You know, this is a tough decision. 18th and Vine has been a problem for the city for 25 years. They've put tens of millions of dollars into infrastructure in some of the buildings, and we still don't have a lot to show for it. It is historically, it's a hugely significant asset, but in recent years, not very many people go there. It is on the east side, so the council would like to show they're bolstering the east side. This would be a big investment, but they've got to have confidence that this next $27 million will finish the task, and I don't think they're sure of that yet.
But what message does this send, Steve Bockrott, when folks will see that, wow, we're happy to spend a lot more money than this in other areas of the city, including downtown and lots of other areas of the city, and some people are questioning the wisdom of some of those tax breaks that go to certain businesses, and yet are not willing to spend this type of money on this project?
Well, they're not wrong to be upset about that. You look at the Twin Creek development up in the Northland. The city just got done paying $40 million, or has $40 million on the hook for just sewers for that development. And then you've got, as you mentioned, the Power and Light District, that costs taxpayers anywhere between $10 and $13 million every year. So they're not wrong to raise that criticism. One of the problems with 18th and Vine is the lack of connection, if you will, between 18th and Vine and downtown. I mean, if you were just going to go from the Crossroads, walk down 18th Street to get to 18th and Vine, it's not a very pleasant walk, and transportation hasn't been always all that readily available to get there. So that part of 18th and Vine's problem is what goes on around 18th and Vine, and sort of being able to link that attraction to other attractions.
But isn't this just the right time for it now that we also have the Urban Youth Baseball Academy that's going to be coming in right next door to it, that this is an opportunity for a rejuvenation there, an investment?
Well, yeah, so there's certainly things going on, even absent this $27 million. Whether that's enough to raise the profile of 18th and Vine in a significant way, I think some of the proponents of this plan say you need to spend more money in conjunction with that to make it a more attractive place for people who might come in for the first time for this baseball academy.
We should be clear, though, that there has been prior investment in 18th and Vine. We're not at zero.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, we spent $20 million out of the Cleaver plan originally to build the facilities, and then subsidized both the Jazz Museum and the Negro Leagues Museum and the gym every year since for 25 years, another $1 million a year. So you're up to $45 or $50 million already invested in 18th and Vine. Some people say that's why you need to put in $27 million more to redeem that. Others will say, hey, look, bad money after bad, probably not a wise idea.
Boy, has the screw turned here in our city when it comes to focus on the east side. East Siders complaining for years and years and years that we're not getting our share. And boy, that's changing now, and changing in a big way. The East Side Police Station, the baseball fields, the push on 18th and Vine, and the shopping center
right.
We're going to talk about here in a moment. The screw has turned. East Side representatives doing a great job at bringing the spotlight to their needs that have been ignored.
He's talking about the full-service grocery store, $13 million in incentives at Prospect and Linwood. There, I mean, is the messaging here that we better do something fast to help the East Side when we're rejecting the money for 18th and Vine this week?
That Linwood project was first announced over a year ago, and it was about the time the city was also really promoting a downtown convention hotel, which is also kind of moving along very slowly. But I think they felt like if we're going to promote this downtown convention hotel, we've got to have something for the East Side. So they announced the Linwood grocery store before they'd really done any of the work to get it off the ground. Now that's finally happening. It will be built. But again, that was a shopping center that was mismanaged and fell apart. And
was
so,
also subsidized.
Right, and so I think the council wants to be, they're accountable for this money. They want to make sure it's well spent.
We're going to talk about some more metro development projects in just a moment. But first, over the better part of the last year, KCPT is tracking religion in our metro as part of a project called Beyond Belief. Next Thursday night, we invite you to join KCPT as we show what we've learned as we share local stories of faith in action, from churches that welcome refugees to a KCK congregation offering bilingual worship services, to two local schools, one Jewish, one mainly African American, journeying down south to Selma to better discover one another.
Oftentimes you hear they gave their lives, right? They didn't give anything. Those people were murdered. Murdered by hateful, racist people.
You can catch Beyond Belief, local stories of faith in action, Thursday night at 7:30 on KCPT. How much new development can our metro support? How many big new shiny retail and entertainment complexes? Is there a limit? This week, Steve Vockrodt, you report for The Star on the flagging fortunes of Prairie Fire in Southern Overland Park, the home of the museum at Prairie Fire, REI, Cinetopia and Pinstripes, but not bringing in as much revenue as hoped, and the museum, fewer visitors than projected. Meanwhile, over the other side of State Line in Grandview, officials greenlighting the funding this week for a mammoth new soccer complex surrounded by hotels, restaurants and shops. Steve, 14 soccer fields, that's more than the Overland Park soccer complex, which is massive already. Is there enough demand for these fields, or do we need to grow more kids?
Well, my sense is just talking about the soccer component of this, the existing soccer complexes, to my understanding, are booked up and in high demand. So, I don't think Grandview is chasing a wild goose here by proceeding forward with this project. It would be the type of recreational amenity that would bring people to Grandview who might otherwise not have other reasons to go. So I think for Grandview, it's not that risky of a decision. We talked about, you mentioned Prairie Fire, and I'll say real quickly that retail is difficult in really any part of the metro. And in this case, the developer of Prairie Fire says that a practice in the film industry has hurt sales at the movie theater, which is kind of the anchor of that development. Since I wrote the story, I've heard from some people, some visitors who say, well, part of the issue there is parking. Whatever it is, you have another large retail center right next to it in Corbin Park. I don't know how much demand there is for new retail anywhere in the metro.
And that is all we have time for. Thank you for joining us on Week in Review. I'm Nick Haynes. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.